Good day everyone! Today we will be discussing about Dorothy Johnson and her behavioral system model, a nursing theory that views patients as behavioral system striving for balance. Together with my group, we will share her life, ideas, and how her model is applied in nursing practice. So now that we've introduced Dorothy Johnson and her theory, let's take a closer look at what she believed to be the main goal of nursing. Dorothy Johnson believed that nursing main goal is to keep the patient in balance. When a person's behavioral system is disturbed, the nurse helps restore equilibrium for Dorothy Johnson was born in Savannah, Georgia in 1919, where her journey in life and nursing began. By the 1960s, she gained recognition as a nursing theorist for her innovative ideas about patient care. She introduced the behavioral system model, which views patients as a system of behavioral that need balance and stability. Dorothy Johnson passed away in February 1999, but her contributions continue to influence nursing practice today. Since her education played a big role in shaping her ideas, let's take a look at Dorothy Johnson academic journey. Dorothy Johnson completed her Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Vanderbilt University in 1942, which became the foundation of her nursing career. In 1948, she earned her master's in public health at Harvard University, further strengthening her knowledge and shaping her ideas in nursing theory. Her education laid the foundation, and later her career and contributions made a lasting impact on the nursing profession. Dorothy Johnson served as a professor of nursing of the University of California, Los Angeles, where she influenced many students and future nurses. In 1968, she introduced the behavioral system model, which focuses on maintaining balance in a patient's behavioral subsystems, and advocate for behavioral nursing research. She strongly supported research in behavioral nursing, believing it was key to advancing nursing as both a science and a profession.
The behavioral system model presents the idea of a patient being made up of a collection of behavioral subsystems that interrelate to form a behavioral system. So the main idea of this is that you, as a person or as the patient, is viewed or treated as a system, and you as a system is made up of 7 subsystems. First of the 7 subsystems is the attachment affiliative subsystem, and it talks about inclusion or social inclusion, which is the feeling of belongingness that we seek from society. And then there's intimacy, which is the social connection, be it physical or emotional, that we seek from people or animal companions. Now, those people are usually our parents, friends, lover, and sometimes even strangers. Now, take for example naman sa formation and attachment of a strong social bond. Think of a newborn and a mother. No? They often have skin-to-skin contact, which is intimacy. And then this breeds protective instincts from the mother and the primal instinct of an infant to trust someone that exudes that level of safety. Hence, the ultimate function of this subsystem is survival. Then we have the dependency subsystem, which is the approval or the attention or recognition seeking behavior from people. Like take for example, a child seeking validation from their parents. Now this child grew up thinking that the only way to make his parents happy is to achieve a high grade or be the top of the class. And when this goal is not achieved, it causes distress to the child because they depend on their parents' recognition for their emotional stability or the satisfaction that they get from validation. And the physical assistance naman, it talks about the physical aspect of dependency. Like when you're sick, you rely on someone, most likely your parents, to take care of you, to assist you, to nurse you back to health. And you depend on them to achieve recovery. And that's the dependency subsystem. Then we have the ingestive subsystem, which from the word itself talks about foods and substances that we ingest. Hence this association with the appetite satisfaction. And it revolves around the social events wherein the occasion of food being eaten is the central focus. And in order to stimulate this subsystem, one ingests foods that are pleasant to the taste, although sometimes in the hospital setting, food can be quite bland, and it results into the stagnation of this subsystem. We talked about the intake of food, so the next sensible thing would be to talk about its excretion, or shall I say, elimination. The eliminative subsystem is the elimination of waste from our body either via defecation, urination, or vomiting. And this practice can vary from culture to culture. Like for example, in most places, we use toilets to get rid of our waste. But in some cultures, they prefer to stick to the traditional way of responding to the call of nature. The sexual subsystem doesn't only talk about sexual urges, but also explores the factors that affects it, such as biology and social aspects. In the biological sense, it refers to the genetic aspects of a human, which includes physical appearance, diseases that affect sexual stamina, erectile dysfunction, and infertility. And the social aspects talks about the role of humans in procreation or mating. And this comes with role identities, like how society expects a man to be the provider. But nowadays, such roles can be switched depending on who makes more money in a relationship. And it also talks about sexual gratification and self-gratification, or the satisfaction an individual gets from masturbation. Now, the aggressive protective subsystem talks about protection and self-preservation. It's how you protect yourself from external influences, no? It's the defensive response from an individual when life or territory is threatened. Like, it's the instinct that makes you want to protect what is yours. Then, the achievement subsystem. It is the efforts to gain mastery and control in the intellectual, physical, creative, mechanical, and social aspects. It's like, when you achieve something, you achieve those things because you have the skills. And we also have the eighth subsystem, which is not part of Dorothy's model, but later on, kasi some scholars added this eighth system, which is the restorative subsystem. Now, it is concerned with rest or sleep and the comfort or freedom from pain. So it's basically parang connected siya sa recovery. We recover our energy. We restore our energy. That's why it's called the restorative subsystem. So, we have the three functional requirements that each system needs. We need all three of these to keep our subsystems working the way that they're intended to. First, we have protection, which says that the system must be protected from noxious influences with which the system cannot cope from. And then we have nurture. Each subsystem must be nurtured through the input or appropriate supplies from the environment. And we have the stimulation, where it says that each subsystem must be stimulated for use to enhance growth and prevent stagnation. Like what I said earlier in the ingestive subsystem, an example of stimulus is that when you ingest food that is pleasant to the taste. And then we have the four major assumptions about the behavioral system model. First is that there is organization, interaction, independency, and integration of the parts and elements of behaviors that make up the system, which is true. No? They are interconnected. And then we have the second one. A system tends to achieve a balance among the various forces operating within or upon it. And that man continually strive to maintain a behavioral system balance and steady state by more or less automatic adjustments and adaptations to the natural forces affecting him. So, it says that our subsystems adapt or nag-a-adjust siya sa mga influences from outside or inside the body. And then, a behavioral system, which both requires and results in some degree of regularity and constancy in behavior, is essential to man. That is to say, it is functionally significant in that it serves as a useful purpose in both in social life and for the individual. And then the final assumption states that the system balance reflects adjustments and adaptations that are successful in some ways and to some degree. This final assumption is actually connected to the second one because it both talks about adaptations and adjustments from natural forces or external forces that affects our body. So how can we apply Dorothy Johnson's behavioral system model in practical nursing? Well, it's a mid-range theory, meaning it's not as vague as grand theories, but it's also not very specific or not a step-by-step guide. So what it is useful for? It is useful in assessing behavioral issues because it talks about behaviors. And it helps us view a patient more holistically by not only treating the illness, but also recognizing the other aspects that influences an individual's behavior during such a time. Like, when you're sick, you tend to be more sluggish or you tend to be more drowsy. When we notice these behavioral changes, we know that there is something wrong. Third is that it gives us a better perspective on how to administer treatment based on behavioral changes. It's just like what I said earlier about the fever, no? And through keen observation, one may notice a behavioral pattern that are common amongst a group of people with the same diagnosis. Meaning, there are similarities in behavior kapag mapapansin mo sa mga taong may pare-parehong diagnosis ng sakit na yon. Not all theories are perfect. And therefore, Dorothy's behavioral system model also has its strengths and limitations. But let's take a look first at the strengths. First is that it provides clear structure for behavioral assessment, and then it focuses on preventive care. Gaya ng sabi nila, prevention is better than cure. So if you notice the behavioral changes early on, you may be able to prevent it from worsening. But we also have the limitations. The problem with it is that it is too focused on behavior and less on physical and biological aspects. And it can be difficult to assess all subsystems at once. Siyempre, iisa lang naman tayo, hindi natin mamomonitor yung changes sa lahat ng subsystems na yun because there are 7 or even 8.
Good day everyone. Today I'll be discussing the 4 major concepts of nursing meta-paradigm through the lens of Dorothy Johnson's behavioral system model. So the nursing meta-paradigm is composed of 4 key concepts. First is nursing, second is person, third is environment, and lastly health. So we will go through each one of these. First, nursing. Nursing in Johnson's behavioral system model is a primary goal to foster equilibrium within the individual by helping patients maintain or regain their balance in their behavioral system when instability occurs. So this just highlights that nursing is not just about treating illness, but also about promoting effective and efficient behavioral functioning. Johnson also highlighted 4 goals for this key concept, which are: first, to assist patients whose behavior matches social demands. Second is to help patients modify their behavior to support biological imperatives. Second is to maximize patients' benefits during illness through proper use of healthcare knowledge. So
Lastly is to guide patients so their behavior avoids unnecessary trauma due to illness. Moving on to the second key concept, it's person. So the concept of a person through Johnson's view is that it is a behavioral system made out of subsystems that function in a patterned, purposeful, and repetitive manner. So each individual has two major subsystems, the biological system and the behavioral system. So medicine often focuses on the biological side, while nursing emphasizes the behavioral system. So more importantly, Johnson highlights that the person is an organized and integrated whole, and any imbalance in behavioral systems can affect overall health. Moving on to the third concept of meta paradigm, it's environment. So, as stated by Dorothy Johnson, the environment consists of all factors external to the individual that can influence the behavioral subsystem. So this includes physical, social, and cultural elements. So the role of nurses is to manipulate the environment in ways that restore equilibrium, for example, minimizing stressors or adjusting conditions to help the patient adapt more effectively to challenges. The last key concept of the nursing meta paradigm is health. So Johnson defines health as a dynamic and elusive state influenced by biological, psychological, and social factors. Health reflects balance and stability within the behavioral subsystems. So when subsystems fail to meet their functional requirements, imbalance occurs, leading to, of course, poor system functioning. Stated by her, effective health is seen as when individuals are able to conserve energy to ensure survivals and gain personal satisfaction. So, to summarize all of this, Johnson's behavioral system model explains the nursing meta paradigm as: number one, nursing is about maintaining and restoring balance. Second, person is a behavioral system with interconnected subsystems. Third is environment, which influences behavioral stability. And lastly is health, which is the balance and functionality of those subsystems. So overall, this framework emphasizes that nursing goes beyond physical care. So it ensures that behavioral and psychological stability so patients can function effectively in their own environments. So that will be all. Thank you.